Hi everybody, it's Stephanie from New Jersey Science Convention presentation today with Matt Pierce. I just wanted to go through my presentation for you because we kind of missed it today, but it was a good reason because everybody was just had wonderful questions and talking to Matt, and it was a really good presentation. And this is kind of my half of it. I'm going to talk to you about CCRI, but first I want to start with the ooh and ah factor. This is a model. Whoops, let's go back. Play model. It's not playing. Why isn't it playing? Oh, there we go. This is a model that NASA has. Matt mentioned the GCM model is a very widely used model for a lot of weather, weather station, weather channel. And this is actually a free downloadable movie that you can use in your classroom. This particular animation looks at the rate of precipitation during Hurricane Matthew and where it's falling, so you can have like a little geography, definitely weather, measurement, as you can see down on the left side of your screen, 200 kilometer by 10 kilometer, and it's just a really cool way to open presentations. So, going forward, let's see if I can find, there we go. So going forward into our experience in CCRI, my particular scientist is a paleoclimatologist, and she is a wetland expert worldwide. And when we say wetland, we mean any wetland. So whether it's a marsh or a bog, a swamp, low-lying area, anything by the ocean, anything by lakes, rivers, and Dr. Petit is very well known. In our research, we had 4 goals. We had to determine the rate of carbon sequestration in the wetlands that we were studying. We wanted to establish shifts from the mudflat to low marsh to high marsh. We wanted to time that so we could find a link to sea level rise. We wanted to reconstruct the paleoclimate, so depending on what's actually in the cores that we get out of the land, doing certain tests can allow for reconstructing climate, and definitely looking at it with impact to European settlements, and then linking that climate to the current carbon dioxide methane emissions. And we are working with a team out of Rutgers University out in the Meadowlands, and we are working with other teams in other areas, definitely around the New York area. So methods. In paleoclimatology, a core is dug, basically, and this is the most simplified explanation. A core is dug, or several cores are dug, as far down as possible. And there are studies done. So we can do a transect study. We can look at an X-ray fluorescence and try and look for elements and pollutants. We do a search in maps and historical literature to see if there's any clue there as to why our analysis of the actual core is coming out the way it is. Carbon-14 dating, of course, which turns into such a great lesson. Loss on ignition, looking at the organic, inorganic material, and definitely the percentage of each. Macrofossils, foraminiferas. So there's a lot. It's almost like it really is almost like a climate science, a crime scene investigation, or a nature scene investigation. So it's very interesting, and that's our team's work. So when I'm taking that research and I'm transforming it into the classroom, there are 3 kind of pillars that I've learned are very necessary to have success from, a deep impact research to a classroom when we're kind of bringing it back to that kind of level. And the first one is relevancy. The student always asks, how is this relevant to me? Why is this important in my life? From taking research to the lesson part of it in the classroom or in an activity, and then applying it back out into the world so that students know that their work counts for something. And we do that by looking at articles like this one out of Caltech, how they are looking at paleoclimatology on Mars and trying to answer questions there. Looking at NASA satellites, not only on the ground, there's actually a satellite that reads into the ground, and it reads about 2 meters into the ground. So it's really quite interesting. So CCRI has empowered us in North Bergen to transform the way we're approaching STEM and STEM Academy. And for years, we did things, school to school. Every school has a different schedule, but what we did was that we rounded up all of our current grammar schools that go through 8th grade, and we held a district-wide middle school science fair. And that was really very helpful through NASA and Dr. Scalzo back in 2013. In the course of 2014, really, to 2015, we got together and started planning our STEM Academy, and we launched it last year. It's a cohort academy. It's all of our students kind of take their math and science classes together, and then some of their other schedule falls within the realm of each other, but sometimes they have classes apart so that they get to branch out into the larger population. And now, 2016 going forward, we've partnered with NJIT, we've partnered with Fairleigh Dickinson University. We always meet with the Department of Labor and Workforce for STEM science opportunities, and we look at other institutes and partnerships to further the students' experiences. So in the case of our research, Dr. Petit's research, I came up with 6 lessons in a unit, and each of these lessons is quite comprehensive. It takes much more than just a single class period, but they kind of are all self-contained. Each one of them has an activity, a central activity. There's a reading component, a math component, science conceptual component, historical component, and if you want to get the first lesson from me, that's no problem. They are my lessons for now until Goddard approves them, so they're not NASA published lessons. They're just lessons that are part of the requirements of being a teacher with CCRI. And all of these pictures that you see here are our students. They are actually out with Dr. Petit in the Meadowlands, coring. Those are some of the pictures on the left side. They are analyzing core samples from around the world on magnifying glass, with scopes that we got from Donors Choose on the computers. Those are a couple of the pictures toward the bottom. And on the right side, kind of combination of both, going out to the Meadowlands last spring and taking a look, putting together a core with Dr. Petit this fall, and again, kind of analyzing their results. They're really putting themselves to work as if they were on Dr. Petit's team. The classroom experience of one of my lessons, on the first lesson, is what I call a whittle while. It's kind of a KWL chart, except it's a journal that they can keep forever if they want to. It's their document to keep. I just ask, what do you think? What do you think you know? And they just keep going with what they know and then what they've learned. They can keep typing it in, they can print it out and write it in, they can keep a journal, but it's theirs. And then in the Google Classroom here on the left side on the bottom are all of the components of the lesson that they need for self-inquiry. And so they watch these videos here on the right side, Dr. Schmidt, Dr. Petit, and they kind of get an idea in a sense, and then they go from there. They actually have to get together and do a presentation of everything they've learned so that they can speak about it scientifically into an audience. Okay, NASA education resources. We talked about this today, and yes, there are multiple channels of NASA education resources, And sometimes they talk to each other. Sometimes they can hyperlink from here to there. But it's such a big place that sometimes teachers get lost in it. One of our charges as CCRI educators is to use mostly NASA resources, not solely NASA resources, because there were some really good resources that I got out of Berkeley, University of California, and Black Rock Forest Project, but for the most part, NASA resources, because they do exist. This whole list on this slide for you has been turned into a list of websites. So now you can go to any of these websites, and they do correspond. I'm just going to go back here. So all of the websites listed here correspond to the next page, and there they are. So this is how I kind of put things together, and it's a very creative process. So as a NASA educator, I can't overstate the wonderful experience creating my own lesson and thought process based on what I learned from an actual NASA scientist. The last one in green actually was a typo. I was looking for the SVS, that wonderful movie that we opened with, and I hit SIS instead. But it turns out that NASA has a site for that too, and it's Stay in Schools. So if you work in a high-risk area like I do, there is a wonderful program that NASA runs for high-risk students. So moving on. These are other educational resources that Matt talked about today. The one screen he put up where it listed the educational resources and he kind of hyperlinked to them. I didn't think you'd be able to hyperlink, so I created a slide just for you. Wavelength, that's the one we showed you where you can search by grade or by type of science. The Educator, Online Professional Development. Texas State EPCD is a terrific center for professional development. I'll tell you 1,000 times, definitely get online with that. NASA for Students, there's different levels. There's K through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, higher education, and then, kind of gets into that undergrad and the adult or the more sophisticated NASA sites. STEM lessons from space. This is from the ISS. Internships at Goddard. This is where the internships are. Institute of Space Studies. This is, and that's the office where Matt works out of. And the central office of Goddard Education. And of course, Stay in School, because even with a typo, you can get to a NASA site. More NASA opportunities for your students. This is the 100th anniversary of NASA Langley Research Center, and they are having an art contest. The art contest runs from November 1st to December 31st, and here's the website for it. Get more information there. NASA does partner a lot with different federal agencies because NASA itself is a federal agency. So this particular one is Federal Resources for P through 12 educators. You want to get to these as fast as possible. Sorry for, they're all happening in November. So this one, I thought this was very interesting. Telescopes. There's all sorts of ways to make and get telescopes. So this is happening on November 2nd out of EPDC. Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Matt touched upon Jet Propulsion Laboratory because he worked with them when he was in LA. I keep repeating myself. I can't say enough about the wonderful, wonderful resources that they have. This is a terrific resource, how to do a science fair project. It helps a child who has never done a science fair project, has probably maybe had no interest in it, and it gets them motivated. Really terrific content. Launching Your Future at NASA, applying for jet propulsion internships, and the design process. Here we are again talking about engineering, that the unsung stepchild of the STEM process. So Now, you know, JPL has great stuff on that. You do all know Globe, you know, so you know, you told us that you're all very aware, excuse me, of Globe. And Globe is now completely interactive. Like Matt said, you can take scientific measurements in your local area, upload them, and you are part of a worldwide community of citizen scientists. And it's incredible how much is shared on the Globe program and how interactive it is through the web. And so that's that for now. This is my contact information. Please feel free to call me, write me, email. Let me know if you want to get together or, you know, you want to talk about things further. Like I said, Matt is in New York and he's a real honest to goodness educator, and you know, he's the face of NASA, and we're just here to build the community of scientific educators. So thank you so much. Talk to you soon.